One. And there we are, everybody.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of D&E, siblings who talk to each other because they are siblings. Hello and welcome.
Yes, literally no other reason. I wouldn't even want to be associated with you if it wasn't related.
Not even friends.
Not even friends. Not even enemies even. Nothing. Apathetic.
We don't even know each other.
Wait, who are you? Why are we doing this? No. So, the premise of this show, for those of you that don't know, none of you know, this is the first episode. It's pretty simple, right? Every episode, she's going to explain a thing to me, and I'm going to explain a thing to her. And we're just going to do that till it's over, and that's just how it's going to be.
Until we all know everything.
Everything, or as much as we can, because I'm going to be totally honest, I don't think either of us are experts in today's episode's topic, but you know, they're fun. So
that's the point. We're not experts.
We're doing this for fun.
Talking to each other because we're siblings.
And here's something that I do like. I love watching a video where a person is talking about a thing that they really like, but they're not super knowledgeable about. And then you scroll down, and there's like a bajillion people in comments going, actually, I have another thing to say to that. I have another thing to add to that. And you just get this whole big old dialogue started.
That's the best shit. It's like Wikipedia.
Oh, then they start linking you off to websites and articles and shit. It's like, oh, yeah.
So today's episode, I will be telling Des Poptriopica, and he will be telling me World of Warcraft.
Yes.
So,
all that.
Do we want to do rock, paper, scissors to find out who goes first?
Well, here's my thinking, right? Let's not try to see who goes first, who goes whatever. Let's intersperse things. Here's what I think we're gonna do. We're gonna start off with just boil it down. There's a few different parts. First, just summarize what it is, explain why you played it, what made it so cool about it to you, what made it so unique, and then explain maybe why you stopped playing it and what it's like now. All right.
That's genius. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
All right, you first.
I think about this stuff for a living. I don't, but I would like to.
You should.
I should think about things for a living. Oh my God. So Emma, I'm asking because I genuinely have no clue what the hell Poptriopica even is. What the hell is Poptriopica?
Well, I'm glad you asked. And I'm also really amazed that you don't know what it is because it was such a formative game for me. So yeah, I first started playing it when I was still friends with our next door neighbors. You know who I'm talking about. Whack.
Sure, totally.
Where everybody realized, oh, that's what bullying is? That's not what friends say? Oh,
that's weird ass shit, man.
I don't think I should be friends with them anymore. They're mean.
Oh man.
Anyway,
yes.
So
what is Poptriopica for those?
Poptriopica is a game where there are different plot lines of games. There are islands that you travel to in your little hot air balloon, and every island has a different theme. The first islands were named like Carrot Island or 24 Carat Island, like 24 karat gold, but it was about carrots, so it was a pun. Sharktooth Island, which is about sharks. You had to like make a potion. And early Poptriopica, which was like a kind of joke to itself. It was like a pioneer. It was like everything was pixelated on purpose. It was very weird.
That's cool. I like that.
But the point of these islands, every island that you went to, you had to do a different thing. So it's kind of like, as time went on, they would offer you a different level or a different chapter of a story that you could go on. On 24 Karat Island, there were little mini things that were cute. Like you could go to the counter in the diner. You have to ask somebody about like, there's little things that you have to do. Like, I'm not very good at explaining it, but like, you have to feed this cat milk. You have to convince this cat that, you're friendly. And in order to do that, you have to get the milk from this diner. But when you're at this diner, you can also drink from this milkshake machine that whatever color you change the soda, you change your hair that color. So that's
okay.
Super weird.
So it's kind of like this like platformy, side-scrolly type.
Yeah, like you just kind of pan back and forth and stuff, and when you give that cat back to its owner, that owner will repay you with a crowbar, and you can use that crowbar to go into the factory that has been long abandoned, but is actually the secret lair for the rabbit who wants to launch a robot rabbit into space to control all of Poptropica Earth.
That's
And
great. That's
so you
awesome.
have to foil his plans. All of it's basically like, you have to foil the plans of the bad guy.
Oh, okay.
Or you have to right some evil wrong. Like with Sharktooth Island, you have to collect an ancient bone, a fermented coconut, and a shark tooth, and you have to put them all together in this brew, and that brew calms down the shark that's been terrorizing everybody. I don't really get it.
Cool.
But the early
Like, basically,
islands
you
were
give
not
the
that
shark a
intuitive.
sedative. You give him a
Yeah.
sedative, and then he's like, dude, I don't even know what
It was basically just a big fat alcoholic drink. It was martini. It was a nice little dulce de leche, like.
sips it. He's just like,
Yeah.
man, I don't even want to eat people.
I
sounds
don't
great.
know why I've been terrorizing these people, man. We should all love each other.
You should totally come.
Love each
I don't
other.
have any
Yeah.
arms. I can't hug you, but like, come here, man. Let's do it.
Let me just get you in my fins. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but like, so all of the islands, now there's like probably 30 islands. They started out really small and they got really big. There's like a Greek mythology island where you have
okay,
you have
that's
to
my shit.
basically be like, you have to do all of these things. You have to pass through the river Styx, and you have to help Hercules or
Seriously?
whatever. Or like Hercules is like this big shot who's like, I'm so strong, and you're like, okay, Chad, and like you move on.
Okay, all right.
And then there's other islands that are like I can't remember any of them. Oh, there's the painting island. There's this guy who's been stealing paintings, and you're the security guard at that museum, and you have to find out who's been stealing paintings. And turns out it's the person who was working with you all along. I don't know. There's also, oh my god, one of my favorite ones is the train island. You're on a train with like Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison and Mark Twain and Susan B.
Victorian
Anthony.
steampunk train. That's amazing.
Yeah, all of these fucking famous people. And you're going back and forth, and somebody stole Thomas Edison's movie projector. Oh god, right? Because they're on their way to the World's Fair, and you have to find the movie projector, and you have to find out who stole it, and blah blah blah, and all of this and all of that. And then the transformer that Nikola Tesla built for the Ferris wheel in the you like this French reporter stole the transformer from Nikola Tesla that Nikola Tesla was sending to the Chicago World's Fair for the Ferris wheel because there wasn't enough power. She stole it because she didn't want the Ferris wheel to become more popular than the Eiffel Tower. Now, of course, I'm in college, and I understand now that the World's Fair was really just racist and full of nastiness and full of awful, god-awful, nasty, racist.
It happened 100 years ago. It probably was racist. We can
No, but I mean, like, it was just blatantly so racist. Like, the whole thing was like, look at all these black people. Aren't they weird? Give me money. Like, now I'm like, so some of the things... Some of the parts of Poptropica that, like, I would have loved to have played before, I'm like, also I've played them before, so I've achieved all the levels. And they did that thing with membership where, like, you have to be a member to go to certain islands, and it's like a bitch.
It's a free-to-play game, yeah. No,
yeah, it was a truly free-to-play game, and then the membership thing came around, and it was like...
There's this thing that happened that was... So, like, back in the day, and I mean, like, back in, like, 2003, 2004, actually around the time, like, World of Warcraft, EVE Online, Ultima, like, were first starting up, or maybe Ultima had been on for a while, I'm not sure, but, like, on, like, the internet, like, there was this weird, cool, primitive culture of, like, flash games, free flash games, and they were so small, they were built around, like, one idea. Like, there was one that Carrie and I, our brother Carrie and I used to play called Crush the Castle, where like it was...
Oh my god!
Yeah, it was so
like
cool.
On Armor Games. Carrie was literally just talking about
Armor
that.
Games. Oh my god, yes, dude, Armor Games.
Crush the Castle is really bad. You have to play Crush the Castle 2 if you want the good
Crush the Castle 2. And then there was another one, I think. It was like...
There's a third one. It was kind of weird. The second one's the one to have.
Yeah, the second one was really fun, and then then there was one on Miniclip way back.
Miniclip! Oh,
dude, I still play Motherload on Miniclip sometimes. Dude, that game is crazy. Oh, okay. You know what? I'm not going to tell you what it is. You should go play it. It's a lot of fun. Carrie
I'm
knows
kind of scared to go on Miniclip though now. Like, it's really shady in comparison to what it used to look like.
It is. Well, honestly, I think it used to always look like that, but everything looked shady back in 2005
Yeah.
and so. Well,
I've
anyway,
been playing cool math games recently, just like Solitaire and
oh my God,
Tetroid.
dude.
It's
Cool
like
math.
Tetris, but
Cool
different.
math is great. I love them.
Cool math is so good. Oh my God.
So anyway, this brings me to World of Warcraft, which it turns out, based on your description, is actually not that different from Poptriopica in like the grander scheme of things.
I remember watching you play it all the time and being like, I don't get what's happening. You're just running around. What are you doing?
So the setup, the initial setup for the game is pretty basic, right? So Warcraft was a series of real-time strategy games in the 90s. There was 1, 2, and 3. And there was an expansion pack for the third one, which introduced this really cool character called the Lich King. He looked a lot like the Witch King, but he has an L and not a W, so it's a different person. Never mind. Anyway.
Maybe like a combination of a witch and a lichen.
Dude, no, you know what a lich is, right?
A lich?
A lich is an undead necromancer. So a lich is he's a dead person who controls the dead.
That's not cool.
Dude, they eventually added him into the game as like a final boss character, and his the zone that contains the Lich King, I forgot what it's called, but the zone that contains the Lich King is just frozen Mordor from Lord of the Rings.
That's
and he has this giant ass spire. And
what type of game is this? Children played this?
Children played this. Okay, so it started off pretty simple. Back in the day, there were 2 factions you could choose from, right? There was the Alliance and there was the Horde. The Alliance,
the Horde?
Humans, the Horde, yes, the Horde.
Bro, She-Ra coming out.
Oh, okay.
Have you seen She-Ra, by the way? Because you should watch it. It's incredibly gay. It's worth a watch.
I will watch it.
It'll make you feel good. Again? She-Ra, Princesses of Power.
Oh, wait a minute. That's right. Yeah, She-Ra.
On Netflix.
The trailer looked actually really deep and cool. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I do have to say, She-Ra is the first and only thing I've ever seen that makes gay relationships canon and straight relationships implied. And that's such a fucking power move.
That is cool. I like that. I like it. You can leave it like that, man. That's cool. There's enough of us, right?
That's my suggestion right there. That's it.
Okay, so it takes place in the fictional world of Azeroth, right? There's 2. It started off with 2 continents, and there's a fuckload now. We're just gonna stick with the 2 continents for now. There's the Eastern Kingdoms, and the Eastern Kingdoms contain the Alliance factions, the humans, and then the gnomes and the dwarves share one starting zone, right? Which is this beautiful, snowy filled place. And then there's another faction. I think there's another Alliance faction there. Who else would it be? Who else would it be? Elves? Then there's and then there's the Horde faction, the Forsaken. The Forsaken are the undead. Like they're the zombies. Yes, you play as an undead person in this game. It's great.
I don't like this game.
It's so good. It's really cool. And then on Kalimdor, which is the other continent, you've got the orcs, the trolls, the Tauren, and the Night Elves. And the Night Elves are really cool. So the way that
Night Elves sounds really cool.
They're purple tree hippies who live on the stump of a giant tree.
You had me at purple.
Oh, but it's not okay. So they're also one of the few factions that can be the druid class. The druids transform into animals. So my first main was a night elf druid. I didn't get him very high because I was playing him badly. So I named him this really cool elven sounding name.
Seriously, how do you play badly? I gotta know.
It's an RPG, right? So you've gotta back in the day before every single ability was unlocked as you leveled with no cost to you, you had to invest your skill points very wisely. Otherwise you had to buy gear very wisely to max out the attributes that you have.
I got you. That makes sense.
So now it starts off as a pretty small roster of people, right? But over time, they added expansion packs. They still add expansion packs to this day because it was and still is the most popular MMORPG of all time. I started playing back in 2006, where the first expansion pack, the Burning Crusade, came out. And the Burning Crusade introduced two new playable races. One of which was the race that I ended up playing as my actual main, and those are the Blood Elves. And the Blood Elves are like, there was this old race called the High Elves. I think they fractured or something, and the Blood Elves wound up turning against the Alliance because the Alliance betrayed them, and they sided with the Horde. And this was a really big thing because part of the thing that attracted players to Blood Elves was that they were the only Horde faction that could be a Paladin, right? Paladins were there were two classes that were given to the Alliance and the Horde in that. The Horde could only the Horde could be Shaman before that expansion pack, and they gave it to the Draenei, who are blue Russian Hellboy aliens, and they're awesome. And then the Paladins were given to the Blood Elves, who could originally only be the Alliance because the Alliance were the good guys, even though the best character, Thrall, the war chief of the Orcs, was a Horde guy. And he was a nice guy. I like Thrall.
There's absolutely so much tea here. Wow.
No, so the thing is, you pick your character, you start off in a starting zone, and you run around and you do quests, and the quests give you experience points. And as you get more experience, you get higher up in level. But also, you unlock new abilities. Eventually, you can. This was the thing about this game, right? I need to stress to people that miss original World of Warcraft, that might think that new World of Warcraft has too many features, which arguably it does, but people still play it a lot, so whatever. There was so much walking. There was so much walking.
All I ever watched you do when I watched you play it.
Emma,
I was like,
Emma, you don't get it, all right? Originally, you didn't get a mount until level 40, right? And the first mount sucked, and it took you like months to get to level 40 because only really hardcore gamers ever played MMOs back in the day, right? I cannot emphasize to you how big this world is. And I know how big this world is because I ran all over this fucking world because I couldn't get a fucking mount. It was horrible. And
so sorry.
Okay, full disclosure, I actually re-downloaded it today to play it just to see how it was. And there are a lot of improvements, but you know what's the one thing that is still the same? The walk speed is up. There were a lot of things that they added over the years. They ended up drastically slashing the amount of XP you needed to get to the highest level. They ended up making it so you got your first mount at level 20 and not level 40, which meant like a third more of the game opened up to you. And they actually added a lot of free mounts. Like mounts used to be really expensive in the game. Like you would need, so you start off, there's 3 different kinds of currency, right? There's copper, silver, and gold. 100 copper is a silver, 100 silver is a gold, right? Mounts would cost about they would start off at maybe around 50 gold, and the really expensive ones would be dude, I'm talking 600 gold. So you'd have to be super high level, and super high level back in the day was 60 or 70 in the Burning Crusade expansion pack, which is when I started playing. And basically what you do is you do all these quests, and there are different storylines for different factions and whatnot. There's a really cool one in the human starting zone where there's this gang of guys called the Defias Brotherhood. And you do all these quests, fighting them and getting rid of them in your starting zone, which is it's kind of beautiful little pristine place called the Elven Forest. And eventually you make your way into their stronghold, and you wind up fighting your way through. There's a pirate ship stuck into a cave, and you fight through all the levels, then you fight the last guy, and then you beat the Defias Brotherhood, and it's great.
And then you get to own that pirate ship?
No, they didn't actually add owning property until I think it was the 3rd or 4th expansion pack, and it didn't work, and everybody hated it. So there you go. But yeah, and there's a lot of different things you can do.
So weird. Is it like D&D at all?
Actually, so okay. So brief history lesson. So back in the day, there was Dungeons and Dragons, and from Dungeons and Dragons, all role-playing games come essentially.
Of course. Of course.
So yes, the way that the combat works is you have numbers, right? Maybe your strength is this high, your stamina is this high, your intelligence, and that influences all these percentages. Your likelihood to get a critical, your likelihood to actually even get a hit, your likelihood to do X amount of damage. And so a lot of the combat is you sit there and you press the button when the cooldown is over, and then you wait for the thing to happen. And it can actually be surprisingly engaging because they add a lot of like maybe you press a button and then like a big hammer appears and like shoots a pillar of light at your enemy, or maybe you press a button and then like one of my favorite abilities, endgame abilities for a paladin was you press like there are these things called buffs. They're abilities that give you a certain advantage. So like maybe one buff will give you higher defense. It'll up your damage. Maybe it'll up just your fire damage. If you're fighting like a water monster or an ice monster or like a tree monster or any monster, because fire is the best damage. Like I play a pyromancer in every game I can. Screw it.
I mean, why not?
Well, this particular buff gave you this like shining crown and like golden wings of flame, and I was like, oh, I'm all into that.
I feel like that's where Through the Fire and Flames really comes into play.
Basically. Oh, dude. Okay, people don't know. Like back in the day, like after school was like you come home and then you listen to like Disturbed or Linkin Park and play World of Warcraft, dude. It's great. But there's
that
all
was
these.
your after middle school
That
days.
was my after. Well, my after high school mostly. Yeah. No,
I don't even remember middle school, and for that I am thankful. Actually.
Yes, I remember it a little bit, but I remember it because I was a Star Wars nerd, and the Star Wars prequels were coming out while I was in middle school. So
that's great for you.
Yes,
that's wonderful.
It's good for me. No, so
I had absolutely nothing to hold me tethered to reality. I don't remember a single thing that happened in middle school.
You know what? If you forget something, odds are there's a reason.
I remember the plays that you were in middle school more than the plays that I watched in middle school.
Well, I mean, I remember those plays too because I was in them. So.
Well, yeah. But I mean, even the plays that I've literally are sooner in my memory, I don't have them in my memory. I remember 2 seconds from Aladdin, 2 seconds from Once Upon a Mattress. You know, something that really makes me mad is that the band, for a whole year, band was learning the score of Phantom of the Opera. Did they do Phantom of the Opera?
No. Oh my God.
No, they didn't. They just wasted the opportunity.
I mean, I know you're supposed to pay money to see that, but I would actually pay physical money to watch like the kids in our hometown put on Phantom of the Opera, like random.
Well, yeah, of course, but they didn't do the play. They just had the band separate from theater, just play that for a whole year, and then they didn't work together on it. They could have had literally a live, acoustic. What am I saying? Orchestral performance for Phantom of the Opera, and it would have literally been mind-blowing. And they totally fucked over. They fucked that whole opportunity up. That's just so
Although
sad.
I imagine there probably is a fee associated with putting on a production of Phantom of the Opera, and you'd probably have to pay to license it or something.
Yeah, I get that.
You know, Andrew Lloyd Webber is worth I bet his own poop is worth its weight in gold.
Still alive?
Yeah, I think he's still alive.
Did you just say I bet his own poop is worth? Des.
No, I said I bet his own poop is worth its weight in gold.
Okay.
But still, the guy who makes Cats, Evita, and Phantom of the Opera is going to be worth a lot of money, okay? That'd be like the guy who had thought, hey, you know what would be a good idea? Money. That guy was probably worth a lot of money back in the day.
Okay, I want to talk about Poptriopica again.
You know what happened was my mind became dangerously close to unlocking all my memories of running through the barrens for hours on end because there's no fast travel system and everything is 10 minutes away in real time.
Oh, you were forced out of, serotonin to play this game that gave you nothing in return.
Don't spoil the end of the story. No, okay, back to the joy and the surreal absurdness that was Poptriopica.
Yeah, okay, so one thing that I was thinking about was, the concept of the gamer discourse around feminine characters and AFAB characters, and I was like, that's never been a thing in Poptriopica because everybody looks exactly the same. The only difference is the hairstyle, and you can have whatever hairstyle you want. You don't have to prove that you're a man or a woman. You just pick at the beginning.
You know what I'm reminded of?
in the very beginning, when you make a character, you know, they say like male or female, and they ask you how old you are. And that's not like to track your how old you are when you're playing. That's so that it can like decide the difficulty level. I never realized that. One time I picked, like just one time randomly, I picked like 8 or 6, or I think 8 was like the youngest number. I think it goes from 8 to 16. And I was like, wow, I have significantly less to do. And I realized, oh, it's because it's a difficulty difference. I'm dumb.
That's actually cool. No, you're not.
It makes a lot of sense. That's really neat. Because I mean, Poptropica does have some really tedious and confusing things. Like you do have to look up the cheats sometimes, and by you, I mean me. I had to look up the cheats sometimes.
Well,
I mean, it's not a game that really brings. Yeah, you cheat in Poptropica, that's not a problem. You know, it's not like you're cheating on your taxes.
Well, I mean, because like in all fairness,
have a good time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, well, because like, I mean, that makes sense because like Poptropica, it's a free game that you have access to. It's a single player game as far as I can tell. What World of Warcraft actually does, one of the cool things is, so I said there were 2 factions, right? Well, that means that if you wanted to, you could build, like you could take your guild and form this gigantic, like I've seen it, like people, like there'd be 50, 60 people would all team up and invade another faction starting zone. Like, oh my God. So the capital of the Alliance, really, but also of the humans is Stormwind City, right? It's this beautiful, like idyllic, pseudo-medieval fantasy city, right?
Sorry, my computer fell.
Just gotta bleach my eyes now. No, there's this amazing raid that goes on, like big massive dungeons where you need like 25, 40 people are called raids. But that's also the literal word for invading someone else's place. So that's what everybody calls them, right? Where like this horde guy, right, gives this big ass speech. You can find it on YouTube. He gives this big ass speech, and like they all like, because this was
it like a cultural turning point when this happened and everybody was like,
no,
oh my God.
No, it wasn't, because like people do this, like okay, so they introduced a lot of stuff over the years. One of those things was an achievement system, and there are achievements for killing the leaders of each faction, right? If you're a horde, there's a
game is full of murder and death.
It's full of murder and death, but also demons, and also giant spiders, and also
that's worse.
and also, but
that's
in all fairness, so one of the expansion packs introduced one new race that could be either on the Horde or the Alliance, and it introduced the class of Monk, which was a really popular class in Diablo. They're basically just Jackie Chan, right? Like they fight people, they don't use weapons, they beat people up. I'm gonna tell you the name of the expansion pack, and the name contains the name of the race that was introduced, and you will know what it is, right? As soon as I say it. It's called the Mists of Pandaria.
I don't know what that is.
Jess.
You called me your wife's name again?
Damn it, no. Okay.
I'll kill you.
Okay, Emma. This was the Kung Fu Panda expansion pack. There is an entire beautiful like Chinese island called Pandaria. They're these like dedicated martial arts monks who live on these islands. Their racial flying mount, right, was a dragon, a Chinese dragon, just corkscrewing through the air, having a grand old time. So great. Well, so this actually brings me to something else that you briefly mentioned with Poptropica, is both of these games started off as pretty small, right? In fact, infamously, like the end game content for World of Warcraft wasn't finished when it first released. So people would get to the final areas and there would be no quests. You just had to grind for months to get to the last.
You have to wait for the next mod to upload.
Well, yeah. Well, so what happened was they would introduce expansion packs from time to time, and they still do. So in order, there's the Burning Crusade, introduced an entire other alien world, which, fun fact, the orcs of this game are aliens. They come from another world, and they use this big giant gateway called the Dark Portal to come here after being corrupted by the blood of demons, and it's really great.
Wow, this is interesting. I
It,
feel a lot of She-Ra coming through right
it's
now.
really cool. I would be surprised if modern She-Ra was inspired by World of Warcraft because see here's
Honestly, possibly. I mean,
well
maybe
see here's the thing
Noelle
about World of
like
Warcraft.
really
I've
went for it.
so full disclosure, I have tried many different MMOs since leaving WoW, mainly because they were free, right? I tried City of
Question,
Heroes. Yes.
what's an MMO?
Okay, this is a massively multiplayer online game. Specifically, this is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game, and they're
Okay.
actually, yeah, because like you know, because again, based on Dungeons and Dragons, all role-playing games come from Dungeons and Dragons. Look up any interview from any person who built like a seminal piece of role-playing media. They were inspired by Dungeons and Dragons, right? Uh,
As they should have been.
as they should have been, because Dungeons and Dragons is fun.
It's
Um,
it's good.
they'd
Oh my
introduced
god, I want to show you my character
okay.
after when
I,
you're done with your
I
thing.
think I think my
Leo drew my
character is
character.
gone. I think my cat wound up getting deleted at some point because like I hadn't played for like 9 years. I don't care. Apparently, it only takes like a couple months to get to the highest level. And the highest level now is 120. So like I don't care.
In
Anyway, so
D&D?
then afterwards they get so that was the Burning Crusade, introduced the Blood Elves, the Draenei, and then the world of Outland, which is this cool, destroyed, demonic place where the orcs and the Draenei used to live. And actually, fun fact, there's a zone in there called Nagrand, and if you go there, you find original, uncorrupted orcs with like this. They have this like dark tan skin. They live in these beautiful, like sprawling fields and stuff. There's these floating rocks everywhere. It's basically just out.
Floating rocks!
Floating
Yeah!
rocks, yeah, yeah. It's so great. Well, then came Wrath of the Lich King, which introduced the first hero class, where you needed to get a character to level 55. Then you would unlock this class called the Death Knight, and the Death Knights were this race. They were this society of heroes who had been killed and then brought back to serve the Lich King. And it's you playing as the Death Knight and destroying this place, and then eventually being betrayed by the Lich King and joining either the Horde or the Alliance. I think it depends on which race you got, because race is a thing in this game, but actually a thing. Like there's Minotaurs. They're the Tauren. They live in this beautiful sprawling meadow. A lot of beautiful sprawling meadows. They live in like this city which is like full of totems, and it's on the top of like a plateau. It's beautiful. You got the dwarves and the gnomes. The dwarves, their mounts are rams. The gnomes are they're like the mechanical ostriches. It's wonderful. You got the
Mechanical
trolls.
ostriches! Ah!
You got the trolls who are all Jamaican.
I think there's anything better than a mechanical ostrich. Like, whoa.
Well,
Does Australia know about that? Do the emus know? Because, I mean, they already won the war.
he was riding mechanical ostriches.
Oh my god.
Well,
It's like a turducken.
it's well, what if they aren't mechanical? What if it's just armor that all the actually wait, I just remembered that the Blood Elves mount actually was a giant bird. Giant pretty bird, and like there were exclusive colors you got for doing certain quests and stuff.
That's cool.
And it also introduced the continent of Northrend, which was like, well, it was the northernmost continent in the world. And like there were these zombies everywhere. They had bears. There was this one
Zombies that have bears?
There were probably zombie bears too.
That's unbearable.
Keep in mind, this came out around the same time. No, this came out before Game of Thrones, but I have to imagine that it was partially a Game of Thrones thing. Game of Thrones existed before 2011. A lot of people don't know that. Anyway, well, I ended up leaving around the time of the third expansion pack for a pretty big reason. So the third expansion pack was called Cataclysm, and there was this gigantic Balrog-looking dragon who named Deathwing, who would just fly around places. And actually, you got treatment for getting killed by him, because you could just be wandering around, and then he would explode because he shot fire at you. Well, what he did was he threw a tantrum basically, and he changed the way that the whole world worked. So this was their way of retconning and sort of like it reworking into canon, fixing up all of the zones, because at this point it was 2010, 2011. I forget specifically when it came out, but this game had been around since like 2004. So a lot of the zones had really aged pretty poorly. I just told you. So there was this one massive zone in the middle of Kalimdor, which was where all of so it's where the Taurens, the Trolls, and the Orcs, that was their next zone, because each zone was blocked off by levels. So like you wanted to visit all these places, but there was this inherent sort of dread about them, because all the enemies were legitimately like orders of magnitude more strong than you were. And like some of these were like giant, like there was this one place called Ungoro Crater, which was full of dinosaurs. There were these 3 really cool places in the middle of the Eastern Kingdoms, cutting off the Forsaken from the Alliance, full of like rock elementals and
we love a rock
and, like
elemental.
double-headed dragons and shit.
Double-headed dragon.
And what was scary was like, okay, so if their level is high enough, you can't see it. It's just 2 red it's just 2 red question marks.
That's awful.
It's great. No, it's
That's
wonderful.
not great.
It's great, damn it. It's no, because then at some point you get to a point where they are so much lower level than you are that they don't give any experience, and you can just one-shot them. So you just explore however much you want. No. And so what it did was it actually changed a lot of different stuff. It changed. There was this beautiful area called the Thousand Needles where it was just these giant rocky spires reaching up into the sky, and there were like harpies that had these camps all on top. But there were these cool animals on the bottom, and it actually flooded as part of the cataclysm. So I think it might have become a bit underwater, but like it changed very drastically. My favorite zone, Tenaris, which was just a desert, big desert, and actually nestled in the middle of it were these portals to different times of import in the World of Warcraft lore, and like that, and wound up flooding too. A lot of things really changed, and it was really cool. But you know, I was starting college, and I kind of figured, you know what? I think I've wowed enough, because I end up realizing something.
I've hit my level.
I think I've hit my level, because I realized. So here's the loop, right? Here's the loop that every like dungeon crawler or progression based looter shooter is based on. It's so essentially it boils down to, you need your numbers to be good enough to go into these better areas, so that you can get better gear, so you can get better numbers, so you can go into these areas.
Exactly.
It just goes on and on and on. And but I was like, I mean, a lot of my friends aren't playing anymore, and so I was like, whatever. And that was actually when the peak of World of Warcraft wound up dying down, because I remember when I first started playing, there was a sticker on the box that said, I think over like 5 million online or something. At its peak, it was up to like 12 or 13 million people. So like,
that's pretty impressive though.
That's about like what, like 3% of like, if it was only going to be like, if the only people playing were US players, which it wasn't, like it was people all around the world.
Yeah.
They added a big China expansion pack for a reason, right?
That's cool.
Yes. It was at like 12 million. So that would have been like 3% of the country if it had just been US players. And I don't have any solid numbers on it. They wound up getting to a point where like they just stopped saying how high their subscribers were a few years ago, because it had gotten to the point where it was probably below like 4 or 5 million. But still, that's 4 or 5 million. Like that's a huge amount of people playing your game. And the thing that I think really sticks out to me about both of these games, really, based on what you were talking about, was like, I told you I played a few other MMOs after WoW. I played City of Heroes, City of Villains before it closed down. I tried out Warhammer Online, which had a really nice, it looked really pretty, because Warhammer has some of the best art direction in fantasy. I've tried Guild Wars 2 like 5 or 6 times. There was a really fun Star Wars MMO called Star Wars: The Old Republic, which was made by the same guys that made Mass Effect. So if you wanted to play alone, you had an entire single-player story based around your character that based on your actions. And so all those games have dedicated followings, right? And I'm not going to say that they're bad games. It's just that the thing that kept me in WoW, despite the jank in the gameplay and the walking, was the characters, because I still remember the names of all these characters. I still remember, there was Sylvanas Windrunner, I think was her name. She was the leader of the Forsaken, and she had also been a high elf. And if you went into her, to her throne room in the Forsaken capital city, which by the way is underground in the sewers of a ruined city, it's friggin' amazing. She would sing this really haunting, beautiful song about I think it's about like losing her sister to the Scourge, who are the bad undead who are like controlled by the demons and stuff. Like there is this real sense uh, of scale to the world. And Thrall is actually a really cool character. I told you he was the leader of. So he was the original war chief of the Orcs, and he led them to Azeroth. And he's unique because he's actually a half-orc. He had an orc parent and a human parent, so he's known for his blue eyes. He wound up leaving and doing some other stuff. Again, this is story stuff that happened like 9 years ago when I had already stopped playing the game, so don't know any of it. Now, then there's Vol'jin, who was the leader of the trolls. I think he ended up dying at some point. There were all the villains had fantastic characters. There was Arthas, the Death Knight, who was the Lich King.
I love a good character, evil character that's very well developed.
Oh, totally. And like they all
you have to be well developed to be an effective villain, but you gotta have a good villain that's like not just like I'm threatening, like that has its perks when you're like, a Balrog type of person, but when you're like a person type of person, you gotta have a little more to it.
Well, yeah, and that's what I think really did it. It was like there was so much character, and like another thing too is the art direction is really good. Now the art direction is these are updated textures on like almost 20-year-old character models, right? You would think that them being so simple would be a detriment, but it's not, right? One of the things that I don't like about games like Dishonored and Guild Wars 2 is that they are so designed. So like there's no crisp lines. There's like little bits here and there, and like in Dishonored, the main guy wears a mask, and it can't just be a mask. It's like a mask. It's got like a lens here. It's got line here. Got a little thing here. Got like these weird like things here, and you're just like, okay. And then like Guild Wars, it's like, okay, so like where do the menus begin and end? There's like they kind of bleed into each other, and like there are different races, but you don't really know. There's no like characters in there anywhere. You're not like, oh wow, look at these cool races. So like a lot of MMOs tried to kill WoW. They tried to build themselves as WoW killers, which never works. But the thing is, you can't, because what WoW does. And if you come in here trying to do what WoW did, you're not going to do it as well as WoW did, because they have all these characters. I honestly kind of think of Blizzard as like third-party Nintendo, because the one thing that keeps people coming back to Nintendo isn't just the quality of their games, it's all the characters they have. You sit down.
Well, I mean, also mainly Animal Crossing.
Mainly Animal Crossing. No, but like, that's the thing.
Like, no shade to Animal Crossing.
You know what you're getting into. You sit down to play Zelda. You sit down to play Zelda. You're gonna interact with Zelda and Link and maybe some other people, but you know who you're getting into. And World of Warcraft understood the importance of immersing you in the lore and putting you there while cool stuff happened. Kind of like, although it never held anything to, never held a candle to the mission in Poptriopica where you solve a robbery on a train with Nikola Tesla and I don't
actually know if Nikola Tesla was there, but I think Thomas Edison was entrusted with Nikola Tesla's 2,000-watt Tesla coil, like little Tesla coil transformer. On a train with like
imagine people in the 1800s.
Really influential people from that time period. They were all on their way to the World's Fair.
Oh my God, was Nikola Tesla trying to kill them?
No. The French reporter was just trying to sabotage.
I know, but like I'm just saying, like Nikola.
But it did really feel like an Agatha Christie novel.
Hey Eddie. I need you to take this massive electrical discharge machine.
No, it was this big. It was this big. It was a transformer. It was this big. It wasn't a coil, but it had coils on it. It was like.
Oh my God! You meant like like an electrical transformer. I think like a.
No! What?
Oh no!
No, I mean the actual use of the word transformer. Who do you think I am? Somebody who likes those movies?
Okay, first off, I don't know what you're talking about. They never made any movies for Transformers.
Yeah. What do you mean
What?
transformer? Like the things behind you? I don't know what that is.
Okay, so there was actually there's only one Transformer behind me, and he's where? There he
Probably the
is.
blue one. Ah
Oh
no!
God, I killed him.
Ah,
But he was a bad guy, so
I
yay!
massacred my
Actually, all three of the
boy.
robots were bad guys. And look, you got Black Panther, Black Bolt, and then you got Gundams, and they're the good
I love
guys. Yay.
I love Black Panther.
Hang on.
I finally watched it for class and
You
like
hadn't seen it yet?
no, I hadn't
Oh,
because it came
dude,
out like right after everything happened and I was like,
that's
"Well,
true.
I'm not going to the movie theater right now."
Yeah.
So I never watched
Wasn't
it.
it good though?
It was actually I'm kind of glad that I waited to watch it
Oh yeah.
until I watched it with my
Oh yeah.
global politics radical comics class, and the same professor also taught and I also took um post-colonial literature and theory.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a really, really good lens to watch it with. And I was also watching it in the time period where, like, I mean, I had just watched The Last Black Man in San Francisco and Black Klansman again for,
I still haven't seen
Black
Black Panther.
History
I
Month
really want to.
in February. And it was like, all of it was so important and so good. Oh, and we read the graphic novel.
Yeah, you read
Black Panther, and
the Ta-Nehisi
we had
Coates
so
book.
many things to say. It was. I will not fill this conversation with that.
Okay,
It is a conversation for another day. But we had
one of
so
these
much to
days
talk
we're
about.
gonna have to. Here's what I'm thinking too. Like I think that like the format of just us explaining a thing to each other is fine. But what would be really cool is eventually we're gonna have to explain something to the audience.
Oh yeah,
You know,
whoever the audience might be,
or the audience might be.
we'll
Well, because
find.
like what? Because what? Like because we've read a lot of really good stuff together. We
Oh
read
my god,
Bone right
have we?
here.
Oh no!
Bone. We
I
read
still have like
Exposition.
the 2 issues that you managed to find like 7 and 8 out
Yeah,
of 9
yeah.
of them.
Let it be known that like Bone is so good that like instead of just waiting for like the copies at the library to get returned again, I just went and got them. I was like, no, I want to find out what the hell
Fuck
happens.
it. I need to know. It
I
was
need.
wonderful.
I want to know the end of Bone.
Okay, okay. Wait, I want to talk more about Poptriopica.
You
It's my
did
turn.
it. You should
Okay,
talk more about that. Poptriopica.
okay. So, out of all of the islands, there were a bunch more. There was a Carnival Island, which I never played because it was members only by the time that it came out. There was a Willy Wonka Island, which was really bad in my opinion
Okay.
because the Oompa Loompas were really scary because
Oh no.
I mean because they based it on the book. And the book Oompa Loompas looked like they
Oh.
did in the game, and it was really freaky. Because
Okay.
I mean, any way that they make Oompa Loompas, they're not gonna do it right. Like they're meant to be drawn by Quentin Blake on a page in Roald Dahl's book. That's what they're meant to
And
be.
Roald Dahl wasn't necessarily a guy who was known
They're not
for
meant to be
his
moving
love of
around.
happy good times and
I
like
mean,
cute whimsy.
terrifying. It was really they really just kind of did that one. I'm assuming in an effort to encourage kids to read because it was so based on the book, which I appreciate though because
Yeah.
like in Willy Wonka, but in the book, like Charlie is starving. He does not give a shit about the contest. After a week, it is gone from his mind because nobody in his family is eating because they have no money. And in the movie, the first movie, he's so distraught over not having the possibility to win. That is not him in the book. He passes by the Wonka gates every day and smells the chocolate, not because he wishes he was inside, but because he wishes he could eat something. He's starving to death.
I should read this book. I think I'd like it.
And he finds money in the street. He finds $1 in the street, and he immediately goes into the corner store and buys a candy bar because he knows that there's nothing cheaper than a dime candy bar. And he wants to give all of the money to his family, but he knows that he needs to eat something right now because he's not eaten anything in a while. So
That
he eats
actually,
that
yeah.
chocolate bar, and he gets 9 dimes back on the counter, and he's like, maybe I'll just have one more candy bar. And the guy's like, sure. And he's about to eat it. And he's like, there's a golden ticket in here.
Someone pointed something out, but like, you could look at it like there's an interesting, like subversion in there, because like the only selfish thing that he ever actually does ends up getting him the golden ticket, which ultimately ends up getting him the factory and saves the day.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a cool, like weird kind of grayish thing in that kid's book.
That's also one of the reasons why I really hate the first movie, like with Grandpa Joe.
It's very American.
It's very weird. I love that Gene Wilder's in it. Gene Wilder there's no other Willy Wonka. There can be no other Willy Wonka than Gene Wilder.
Wilder is like
Grandpa Joe should not have. He was not that character in the movie. In the book.
How many musical numbers were there in the book? Like how many?
Like the Oompa Loompas kind of sang, but it was basically just poems.
Okay.
I mean, because you can't hear it or whatever. But no, there were no musical
J.R.R.
numbers.
Tolkien come in from off page and just start reciting poetry, and they were like, "J.R., get out of here! This isn't Lord of the Rings, or the Hobbit, or the Silmarillion. If you start begatting everywhere, I'm gonna go away."
Sorry, we were supposed to be talking about Poptriopica. Anyway, so the Willy Wonka Island was really weird and uncomfortable. I was not a huge fan.
That's fair.
There was an island. Ooh, there was a cryptids island. Ooh.
Oh, what?
It was very creepy. Not gonna lie, it was very creepy. And some islands were really cool because you could travel around to different places within that island.
Okay.
Like going from island to island was like free. You know, you have this little hot air balloon that takes you from island to island.
I remember seeing you do that. Yeah.
In the cryptids island, for example, you have to somehow manage to get into the Muse mansion, or you get taken in because I don't know, you got hit in the head, and then the butler was like, I saw you outside the gate, I brought you inside, and then Mr. Muse really wanted to get to know you. Mr. Muse trusts you for some reason. He thinks that you can find the cryptids because this obsession with cryptids has taken hold of Mr. Muse's life, and he needs to know or he's gonna go insane. So like you are given access to his helicopter, and the helicopter takes you all around the world. Within the construct of that island. It's very interesting. But it takes you to the locations of where cryptids have been seen, like the Chupacabra and Loch Ness and the Jersey Devil, the Yeti and Bigfoot. And I think that's it. But the Jersey Devil one is fucking terrifying because every time you go to these specific locations, say that again.
I think of all the cryptids, like even the Chupacabra doesn't, like if it was real, it wouldn't be that scary because it's just like a big ass vampire bat dog, and you bet it would.
I mean, it's really just like
But the Jersey Devil is like the kind of thing that like no,
it's literally a devil. It's not okay.
The thing is, like, and people will draw like an actual flying devil with horns. No, that's not the scariest part. The scariest version of it is the one where it just looks like a skinny black collie with a long neck and wings, because that could actually exist. You can imagine that, like you can imagine that head peeking out from like behind a wall when you're walking down the
That's
street.
the worst shit.
Yeah,
because
I know.
here's what happens in the game. You have to go around in like you're literally at a gas station. You land the helicopter
Oh Jesus.
Find within the gas station, the doors on the bathroom tell you which way to go in the woods next to the gas station, which way to go in order to find the house where the Jersey Devil lives. So you go through the woods on this little motorcycle. You have to go on the right path and stuff. And then you find that, that house, you get to the gate, you go inside, and you have to go inside the house and slowly creep around.
Oh God.
And then you hear something rumbling upstairs. So you go upstairs as stealthily as you can, and there's like this, I don't know, like a barrel, like a classic barrel, and like the lid starts to go up.
One of those new barrels, like a retro barrel. Oh no, God, no.
Listen, these red eyes are glowing from inside the barrel, and then the lighting shifts, and you see that it's a raccoon, and you're like, oh, come on. So you go to leave the house, and bam, in the window is the Jersey Devil, and you're like, I can't deal with it.
Oh God, no.
And it's really scary because it looks like a zombie. It looks like it's got big yellow eyes.
Oh no.
So help me God, yellow eyes. He had big yellow eyes, this brown, orange, nasty skin, like this really emaciated kind of horse person-like face with these horns, and he had wings, and the hooves, you know, like the legs and stuff are super skinny and like cloppy looking. And
Yeah.
you go outside, and the full fucking Jersey Devil is there, and then flies away. And then you have to take like there's like eggs or something of the Jersey Devil in the tree. I don't really know why the Jersey Devil would lay eggs and not give birth to them, but far be it from me to understand the science behind the Jersey Devil reproduction. Anywho, so you have to take the eggshells, go back to the Muse Mansion. He wants you to bring back proof. And the proof is either photo evidence, chemical evidence, whatever. Something that is irrefutably, you know, proof. So, like, you know, you bring back shells from the Jersey Devil. You bring back a photo of Nessie from Loch Ness because you actually find her. You find out that she likes music. You play a little tune on your pan flute pipe, and then she comes out of the water, and you're like, fuck, click. And there's, you know, with Bigfoot, then all of a sudden there's, like, this other, like, woman who's seeking all of the cryptids because she wants the reward that Muse has put out, like $1 million reward, and she wants the money, so she goes and tries to like capture Bigfoot, and like, you know, it's like really scary the way that she's like I'll do anything, and she tries to burn you alive, and she like sets your paraglider on fire.
Okay.
Puts Bigfoot in a cage and flies him around underneath her fucking helicopter, and it's like, what is going on? This is so fucking
This is like the weirdest episode of Supernatural I've ever seen.
Yeah, it really was. And the Chupacabra one was like, you have to lure some goats into the Chupacabra's like hiding place, and then you like put a box there, and the Chupacabra like goes inside the box, but then he busts out because he's like a fucking jacked, like scary ass dog.
He's not your average dog. He's a Chad dog. He's full of beef and gains and whey powder and
he gets all the
testosterone. Yeah, he gets all the.
Yeah, I mean that's just one island. There's a whole nother island called Nabooty, which I really love. I know. It's kind of like a play on words of Djibouti, which is an actual country.
Yeah. I feel
but
that.
Like, it's also like it was such a cool island, but now you can only play the demo, and the full version is for members, which is really annoying.
Which is great, yeah.
So you have to collect all of these different colored gemstones, which have been scattered all around Africa, and you have to fly around in this little propeller plane, and you have to go on these little places. There's a diamond mine where you have to find one of the diamonds. There's you have to climb to the top of this mountain to get the blue one. There's yellow and red, and you have to go inside of the Pyramid of Giza while it's filling up with sand.
Okay.
As a booby trap to get the purple diamond. But anyways, at the end of it, you put all of the diamonds into this tree. You have to put them in the right order, either the tree or the statue. And then the statue takes off to space because it's an alien spaceship. And you're like, wow, this was a ride.
That's cool.
I'm thrilled with how this went. I could not be more thankful for this experience. It was just beautiful. Wow. It was great. But I mean, they started to do this thing when it started to do pay for play where like they started to do this thing where when you won an island, after you like win the island, you know, like when you finish the island and you win or whatever, they give you a medal. And it's like, congrats, you have the medal from this island or whatever, right? You have this little backpack that shows you all the things that you've collected from each island. Oh, there's a vampire island. Forgot about that. You have to like kill Count Dracula or something, but instead you get eaten. I don't really remember. I never really finished it. It was really confusing. But so at a certain point, they started to do this thing where every time you finished an island, you would get 250 credits, which were like these green coins. And then you could spend them at the store, the little e-store. So you could trick out your person with these little costumes where you hit a space bar and your sunglasses go up or down. Or like if you have a staff, you like, your person goes like, like that's the motion.
You
really cute.
Cannot go.
You shall not pass. But like, you know, at the end of the day, it was kind of like, what am I buying these credits for? Yeah. But it was like really stupid because it's like, I don't want the outfits if I can't play the games. I want the games first and then I'll want the outfits.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think that ultimately one of the things that really sort of killed it for me in WoW was like, and this is the reason why like Breath of the Wild is my favorite game still. It's that I really wasn't in it just for like the story and the dungeons, and like the dungeons were immaculately constructed. Like there was this one, like far in the far north, there was this one called Zul'Gurub, where like the northern trolls lived, and it was like this really dim, apocalyptic looking, like overgrown, frozen Aztec temple full of angry witch doctors and shamans and stuff. It was really cool. And there was this like this like cave full of magma underneath the city of Orgrimmar, which is the capital of the Horde, in Durotar. And like you can go down there and fight people and all that. There was this really, really cool place around where the Forsaken live, called Shadowfang Keep, which is full of werewolves, who, by the way, eventually got added into the game as a playable race. They're called the Worgen, and they're actually on the Alliance. So finally, the Alliance gets a cool faction besides the friggin' besides the.
Love a werewolf in this family. Wasn't
Yes.
everybody for Halloween at some point a werewolf in this family?
I wasn't. I wasn't a werewolf. I was a ninja. Damn it. Although the Horde got the goblins, and the goblins are honestly a little bit better than the werewolves. So
yeah, I just remembered that, like, I was like, what was I for Halloween? Because now I don't remember. Carrie was the werewolf like years and years running, which is what I thought all of us were werewolves, because you had that one mask that was like a skull, like, you know, like the
yeah,
cow skull,
I feel like we
and
pretty much still have that, right? Do we?
but like I remembered, like, you know, you guys having masks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I remembered that funnily enough, that our brother's named Carrie, but that I was Carrie for Halloween.
That's
like,
right,
from
you
the
were.
movie. That
Yeah.
was drenched in fake blood. And that always makes me think of that girl who got in a car accident on Halloween, and she was dressed as Carrie, and she had to convince everybody that it was fake blood and it was already there and that she was fine. And like, no, it's fake. It's not real blood. I'm okay.
I would
And I
have
was
been like, yeah, I actually died. I'm
like,
dead now.
really realistic cornstarch looking blood. And it was the coolest I looked, but it's also like there's like ups and downs and stuff with like fake gore and like
Yeah.
compared to real gore, and it's like, if I say fake gore looks cool, what the fuck does that mean about real gore? Because I don't like real gore, so like,
You should.
but it did look really cool. But that's not. I don't want to like galore. I don't really know.
It's kind of like the difference between like auto tune and not auto tune. Some people like auto tune. It's fine, but you know, if you like it, that's okay. We'll get you help. We love you. We want to make sure that you're okay.
Oh, I just remembered. Okay, this is really off topic, but so my friends and I.
There's no topic. Screw it.
This is true. What we would do sometimes, like in the beginning of quarantine, like we would do play readings, and for all the extra people,
Yeah.
there's like 3 of us, we would have our stuffed animals act as the person speaking, and we did 12 Angry Men, so each of us had 4 stuffed animals, and I literally had to put tape on the back of them so I remembered which character was which, because they're just numbered in the play. They're just numbered. This bad boy over here was, I think, like juror number 11 or something.
I just need you to understand how quintessentially you it is to be telling me that while sitting in front of like a conspiracy theory pegboard.
It's not a conspiracy theory.
Well, I mean, so like a concept web of all the injustices of society.
Yes, injustices of the country. It's enormous. It's like
a conspiracy theory, except it's actually real. Woo!
Bigger than my bed.
It is. Wow, jeez.
I taped it off.
My bed.
I
My
was
bed's
gonna
huge.
paint my room, and then I didn't. So now my room's half taped off. Beautifully.
Fair.
And there's also like paint swatches on the walls, like.
Well, because you have to put that up so that you can't see that.
There's a little bit of blue. It's just bad. Whatever. I'm the only one in here. It doesn't matter.
Who gives a shit?
Who gives a
Who cares?
shit?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So anyway, I honestly kind of want to just say that that's the episode because
I mean, I don't want to. Assuming people are actually going to watch this, I don't want them to have to spend too much time watching us talk.
That's true.
But
I mean, Ken Jeong and Joel McHale managed to go on for like an hour and a half with Pedro Pascal, but neither one of us is Ken Jeong.
Happily go on for like 8 hours, and you know that I will, and I know that you will, but I don't want to do that to somebody.
The best thing about doing a podcast, right? Here's the foundation. You need to pick a person or a topic that you have to cut back on, right? So like you and me, right? You and I can go on for multiple hours. And
about anything.
About literally
anything.
anything.
Any topic.
Anything. different colors of yellow. Hot take, there's
Oh,
too many different colors. There
I
needs
think
to be
there are
fewer.
not enough, personally.
This is a debate. We'll do it. We'll do it. Hell yeah. Okay, cool. Well, thank you all for tuning in, both of you. I'll probably see you guys later because you're probably my wife and our mom.
Yeah, and
Probably.
maybe our dad. We'll see.
We'll see what
We'll
happens.
see
Yeah,
what happens. Next
totally.
time we will be discussing I will be discussing the Mysterious Benedict Society, and
And I
Des will
will
be
be
discussing
discussing the Hyperion Cantos by Dan Simmons. You will be able to predict the kind of stuff that we want to talk about very quickly on this show.
and there will be a special guest appearance, I believe, of a debate about the color yellow, I guess.
No, about the overabundance of colors. There are too many.
I
Make
think
it
that there are
easier.
not enough. Des thinks that there
Streamline the colors.
no more.
Is all right.
More.
It's all right.
All right, no, that will be the kind of popping up discussion next time.
Sure. I'll be
The
like, yeah,
mini
Hyperion is
mini
great
quest.
because there's only 4 books, which is how many colors there should be. Whatever. Anyway,
Wait, is that are there 4 Hyperion books?
okay, there's, we'll get into it next time.
We'll get into it next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. This has been D and E, and we are done and out. Bye-bye.
Siblings who have stopped talking to each other.